Hi guys, today we're going to do arithmetic sequences. This a sequence is a list of numbers, and you see a formula right there. You might want to copy that down. We are going to start by going through the different parts of this formula. So first off, we have this a sub n. A sub n would be the end of the list, our last number, the nth number in the list. And I'm specifically not saying last number because technically the list can go on and on forever. Plus, if you look over here, you'll see that there actually is a letter n, or a variable n, which talks about the number of variables in the list, or the number of numbers in the list, the number of whatever you have in the list. All right, so we've got a sub n and n, and those n's right here are the same. You still have two more variables up here. One of them is a sub 1, which is just going to be the first number in our list. So this would be the first number in the list. And then d is what we're going to call the common difference. So this is what you're going to either add or subtract by to get to the next number in the list. So that's the common difference. All right, so we're going to start with a few lists here, and then we're going to try to write a formula based on this. Again, on your notes, you might want to just make a note to yourself that the word sequence means list, and that's important because in a day we're going to do something a little bit different. All right, let's try some examples. All right, so I've put a couple examples up here, and all we're going to do is we're pretty much going to say yes or no. Is this list of numbers arithmetic? Arithmetic means that we are adding or subtracting the same value each time to get to the next number in the list. So if you look here, from 7 to 13, you go up by 6. From 13 to 19, you go up by 6. 19 to 25, again, you go up by 6. So we would say, yes, this is an arithmetic list, and the common difference is 6. Now, if those numbers are going down, then we'd say negative. The d would be negative. All right, take a look at the next one. So this time we have the first, this is going up by 4, up by 4. Don't stop there though, you got to check all of them. Now it starts going up by 6. So since this difference changes, this is not arithmetic. So it can still be a sequence, it can still be a list of numbers, but it wouldn't necessarily be arithmetic. All right, let me give you a formula or give you an equation, and let's do a little bit of work with that. So next example would be a sub n is equal to 5 minus 2n. And what I want here is I want the first, so find the first 5 terms in this sequence. So the first 5 terms. So one method you could do to solve this problem is to start by plugging in, I want the first term, so when n is equal to 1, my first term, a sub 1, would equal 5 minus 2 times 1. 5 minus 2 times 1 is 3. To find the second number in the list, now I'm going to plug in 2 for n. So a sub 2, that means my second term in the list is going to be 5 minus 2 times 2. 5 minus 4 is 1. The third number in my list, when I plug in 3 for n, would be 5 minus 2 times 3. 5 minus 6 is negative 1. And we're going to keep going until we get to our 5th number in the list. And some of you might already see a pattern with this and wonder why I'm doing all this work. So let's see, we've got 3 is the first number, 1 is the second number, negative 1 is the third, negative 3, and then negative 5. Notice that each of these numbers is going up, or sorry, it's going down by 2. So my common difference is negative 2. Here is my common difference. So a lot of times if you can get the first, second, third one, you can just figure out what the pattern is and keep going from there. All right, let's try another one. All right, here we go. So we're in Pop 2 here. We're not always going to have nice Nice numbers to work with. So, take a second, see if you can figure out what this is. So again, we're going to plug in 1 first. So 14 plus 1/2 gives us 14.5. And you could change that to an improper fraction. This is fine for now. The next would be to plug in 2 for n. So 14 plus 1 is 15. And again, some of you might already see what the pattern is with this one. 14 plus half of 3 would be 14 plus 1.5, so that would be 15.5. The next one's going to be 16, and then 16.5. So my list would be, and again, when you write a list, make sure you split them up with commas, because again, we're going to do something a little bit different in a day here. So here's my list, my sequence. All right, I'm going to give you guys a couple different parts here. I'm going to give you a list and I want you to write a rule. So now I want you to write a rule given this list. So -7, -10, -13, -16, ... On and on. Remember the formula here. Let me pull that back up here. Here's that formula. You might want to keep referring back to this. When we write a rule, what I really need is I need a number for a sub 1 and I need a number for d. You should always see the letter or the variable n when you write a rule. So if you look at this example we did, the only letter you saw was n. This other example we did right there, the only variable you see is an n. Alright, so if you can get a sub 1 and d, let's see, a sub 1 is always the first term, -7 right there. D is what it's either going up or down by. So notice these numbers are getting smaller. They're getting smaller by 3. So my common difference is -3. I'm going to plug this into the formula. So I've got a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. I'm going to plug the -7 in for my first term, -7. I'm not going to plug in anything for n because my rule should always have the variable n in it, times -3. So I'm going to need to distribute -3 here. So I've got -7 plus -3n. You could have just have written -3 there. Negative times negative is positive. We're almost done. Combine like terms. So -7 plus 3 is -4 minus 3n. Now, I typically usually put my constant first and then what it's changing by second. If you wrote -3n minus 4, it means the exact same thing. So just kind of keep that in mind. Right, so that's how you write a rule. Once we have that rule, a lot of times you'll be asked to find another term. So for instance, maybe I want to know what is the 15th term. So I'm asking for the 15th term. Now yes, you could go back to your list and just keep subtracting 3 until you got to the 15th number, but sometimes that's kind of a pain, especially if I asked for the 100th term. So all you need to do now is use the rule that we found here and replace your n with 15. So I have a sub 15 is equal to -4 minus 3 times 15. You do the math here, and you get that the 15th term is -49. Alright, so we just wrote a rule given a list of numbers. I could also give you a very easy problem where I just give you a sub 1 and d, so those should be the easiest. This time I'm going to give you something a little bit trickier. I'm going to give you a sub 19. I'm going to tell you that the 19th term is 48, and I'm going to tell you that my common difference is 3. So, you got to look at this and kind of pick apart a couple things here. Remember, we usually write a sub n, so that means that n is equal to 19. So my 19th term is 48, a sub 19 is 48, but n is equal to 19. So if I write out my formula, a sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d, I should have written d there, I'm going to replace what I know in this formula. So I know a sub n is 48. I do not know my first term, so I'm just going to leave a sub 1 there. I know n is 19 because it was right there, 19 minus 1, and then I know d is 3, which I tried to write there right away. I'm going to solve for a sub 1. Remember, it's easy if we know a sub 1 and if we know d. So we already knew d, now we're just trying to find a sub 1. So we'll do the math. 48 is equal to a sub 1 plus 18 times 3. 18 times 3 is 54. 48 equals a sub 1 plus 54. Subtract from both sides. A sub 1 is equal to negative 6. Now I'm going to go back and do that exact same problem that we did in example 5 to find a rule. So now that I know these two, I can use those to find a rule. So again, here's my formula. A sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. I want to leave anything that has the variable n in it. A sub 1 is negative 6. Leave the n there. D is 3. You'll distribute your d. A sub n equals negative 6 plus 3n minus 3, and then combine like terms. So negative 6 and negative 3 is negative 9 plus 3n, and I've got my rule. Again, if you wrote that as 3n minus 9, that's just as good.